Hello there. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Wherever you are in the world right now, allow yourself to settle into this shared moment of stillness. Let the noise of the day fade away. Let your thoughts grow quiet, like ripples settling on a calm pond. Right now, as you listen to these words, something extraordinary is happening within you. Deep inside your mind, a quiet constellation of traits, memories, and patterns is shaping how you see the world and how you respond to it. This invisible architecture of thought and feeling is what we call personality. Tonight we journey inward into the fascinating landscape of who you are. A world where genes whisper hints of temperament, where childhood experiences leave lasting traces, where the brain's hidden wiring determines whether you find energy in a crowd or in solitude. We will explore how personality forms and changes throughout a lifetime. We will discover what makes some minds seek adventure while others seek calm. We will learn how empathy, creativity, humor, and resilience take shape within the nervous system, all of it waiting to be shared in the stillness. Tonight, let's drift off together while exploring over 100 soothing facts about personality. There's no rush here, no test at the end, just soft words and quiet wonders to carry you into rest. Welcome to Drowsy Discovery. I am glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you have had a long day. Perhaps you simply enjoy falling asleep to thoughts about the remarkable patterns that make you uniquely you. Either way, this space is for you. There is something deeply calming about contemplating the inner landscape of personality. Every trait, every tendency, every quiet preference carries within it a story, written by genes and experience together. You are part of that story. The same mechanisms that shaped the temperaments of your ancestors are still working within you tonight. The wisdom of millions of years of evolution is woven into your very biology. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. So settle in, let your breathing slow, and let the weight of the day drift away like clouds dissolving in a quiet sky. Personality is patient beyond measure. Traits form over years of experience. Neural pathways strengthen with every repeated thought and feeling. And yet, within all that gradual shaping, there are moments of sudden insight. Realizations that change how you see yourself. Encounters that leave lasting marks on who you become. Tonight, we will wander through this magnificent inner world. We will meet the patterns that shape your choices. We will discover the biology behind temperament and the flexibility that allows growth throughout life. But there is no hurry. Your personality has been forming since before you were born. It can continue its quiet evolution while you rest. Let us begin with the invisible threads that weave together to create who you are. Your personality is partly written into your DNA. Long before you took your first breath, sequences of genetic code were already shaping the foundation of who you would become. Studies of twins and families consistently show that roughly half of the variation in major personality traits can be traced to inherited factors. This finding has been replicated across dozens of countries and cultures, suggesting a universal biological foundation. These genetic influences do not determine your personality completely, but they set the initial conditions upon which experience builds. Certain gene variants affect the production and reception of neurotransmitters, like serotonin and dopamine, molecules that shape mood, motivation, and emotional reactivity. Other genetic factors influence brain structure, affecting how quickly you process information or how intensely you respond to stress. The interplay between these inherited tendencies and your environment begins even before birth and continues throughout life. Your DNA is not destiny, but it is the quiet biological whisper that colors everything you feel and do. Understanding this foundation helps explain why some aspects of personality feel so deeply rooted, despite your best efforts to change them. Identical twins raised apart often share strikingly similar traits. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for genetic influence on personality comes from studies of identical twins who were separated at birth and raised in different families. When researchers reunite these twins as adults, they frequently discover remarkable similarities that extend far beyond physical appearance. Twins raised continents apart may share the same hobbies, laugh in the same distinctive way, or hold similar political views. Some pairs discover they chose the same career, married similar partners, or even named their children the same names. Researchers have documented cases of reunited twins who arrived at their first meeting wearing identical clothing without prior coordination. These coincidences are more than chance. They reflect the profound influence of shared genetic architecture on behavior and preference. Of course, differences also exist, reminding us that environment plays its role as well. Yet the similarities are often so striking that they challenge our assumptions about how much of who we are is shaped by circumstance. These twin studies remain among the most powerful tools scientists have for untangling the contributions of nature and nurture to personality. The brain's wiring patterns influence whether you are introverted or extroverted. Introversion and extroversion are not simply social preferences, but reflect fundamental differences in how the brain processes stimulation and reward. Neuroimaging studies reveal that extroverts tend to have more active reward circuits, responding strongly to social interaction and novel experiences with surges of dopamine that feel pleasurable. Introverts, by contrast, often have heightened sensitivity to stimulation in general, which means they reach their optimal level of arousal more quickly and may feel drained by the same situations that energize an extrovert. This difference explains why introverts often need quiet time to recharge after social events. The thickness of certain brain regions and the density of neural connections also differ between these personality types. These structural differences are partly genetic and partly shaped by early experience, but they establish patterns that influence behavior throughout life. Extroverts seek out crowds and excitement because their brains reward them for doing so. Introverts prefer solitude or small gatherings because overstimulation leads to fatigue rather than pleasure. Neither wiring pattern is better or worse. Each represents a different strategy for navigating the world. Your default mode network may shape how much you daydream. The default mode network is a collection of brain regions that becomes active when your mind is not focused on the external world, but is instead wandering freely through memories, imagined futures, and reflections on the self. Some people have more active default mode networks than others, and this variation correlates with how much time they spend daydreaming. Those with highly active networks may find their minds drifting, even during tasks that require attention, lost in vivid inner worlds of possibility and memory. This tendency is linked to creativity and self-reflection, but can also be associated with rumination and anxiety when the mind turns inward toward worry rather than wonder. The strength of connections within this network varies considerably between individuals. The strength of the default mode network is influenced by both genetics and experience, shaped by contemplative practices, childhood environments, and even sleep quality. Understanding your own baseline helps explain whether you naturally gravitate toward introspection or live more fully in the present moment. The daydreaming mind is neither a flaw nor a virtue. It is simply one expression of the brain's endless capacity to generate experience. Certain genes influence how optimistic or anxious you tend to feel. Researchers have identified several genetic variants that affect the balance between optimism and anxiety. One of the most studied involves the serotonin transporter gene, which comes in different lengths and affects how efficiently serotonin is recycled in the brain. People who carry shorter versions of this gene tend to show heightened reactivity to stress and may be more prone to anxiety and negative thinking. Other genes influence the sensitivity of dopamine receptors, shaping how strongly you respond to potential rewards and how optimistically you anticipate the future. The interplay of these various genetic variants creates a unique neurochemical profile for each individual. These genetic differences do not guarantee any particular outcome. They simply tilt the odds subtly, in one direction or another. Environmental factors like supportive relationships, early childhood experiences, and learned coping strategies can counterbalance genetic predispositions. Yet knowing that some tendency toward optimism or anxiety is built into your biology can bring a measure of self-compassion. You are not simply choosing to worry or to hope. Deep molecular processes are shaping the lens through which you view the world. Even a single letter change in DNA can subtly alter temperament. The human genome consists of billions of base pairs, and a variation of just one letter in that vast sequence can sometimes influence personality. These single nucleotide polymorphisms, as scientists call them, are tiny changes that can affect how proteins fold, how neurotransmitters function, or how hormones are regulated. A single letter difference in a gene related to oxytocin receptors, for example, may subtly influence how easily you form social bonds or experience empathy. Another polymorphism might affect the metabolism of stress hormones, making some people more reactive to perceived threats. None of these changes acts alone. They interact with hundreds of other genetic variants and with all the experiences of your life. Yet together they create the biological landscape upon which personality unfolds. The precision with which genes influence behavior is both humbling and wondrous. Such tiny molecular differences can ripple outward into the patterns of thought and feeling that define who you are. Early childhood experiences can shape personality development for life. The first years of life represent a period of extraordinary brain plasticity, when neural pathways are forming at a rapid pace and experiences leave deep, lasting impressions. Attachment relationships with caregivers shape the developing stress response system, influencing how easily a child calms down and how they approach new situations. Secure, consistent care tends to promote emotional stability and openness, while neglect or unpredictability can heighten vigilance and anxiety. Children who experience consistent nurturing develop stronger neural pathways for emotional regulation. These early patterns become templates for later relationships and emotional regulation. Although the brain remains plastic throughout life, early experiences carry special weight because they establish the baseline from which later development proceeds. Fortunately, the story does not end in childhood. Supportive relationships and corrective experiences can reshape neural circuits at any age. Yet understanding the power of early experience helps explain why some personality traits feel so deeply ingrained and why change sometimes requires patient, sustained effort. Long-term meditation can gradually change your personality traits. Meditation is often described as training for the mind, and like physical training, its effects accumulate over time. Studies of long-term meditators show measurable changes in brain structure, including increased gray matter in regions associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. Some research suggests that as little as 8 weeks of regular practice can begin to produce detectable changes in brain structure. These structural changes correspond to shifts in personality. Meditators often report increases in agreeableness, openness, and emotional stability, along with decreases in neuroticism. The practice teaches the mind to observe thoughts and feelings without immediate reaction, gradually weakening habitual patterns of anxiety or irritability. Even short daily sessions, practiced consistently over months and years, can produce detectable changes. This does not mean meditation transforms you into a different person, but it can gently nudge your traits toward greater calm and clarity. The malleability of personality through contemplative practice is a hopeful reminder that who you are is not fixed. With patience and intention, growth is always possible. Sleep quality directly affects how agreeable or irritable you feel. A single night of poor sleep can turn even the most patient person into someone quick to snap and slow to forgive. Research shows that sleep deprivation impairs the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, and reasoned decision-making. When this area is weakened by fatigue, the emotional centers of the brain operate with less oversight, making irritability and moodiness more likely. Even moderate sleep restriction accumulated over several nights can produce these effects. Chronic sleep problems amplify this effect, subtly shifting personality over time toward lower agreeableness and higher neuroticism. Sleep is when the brain consolidates memories, clears metabolic waste, and restores the chemical balance needed for emotional equilibrium. Without sufficient rest, the neural machinery that supports your best self cannot function optimally. Prioritizing sleep is therefore not a luxury, but a foundation for stable, positive personality expression. The kindest version of yourself is often simply the most rested version. The bacteria in your gut may influence your mood and emotional stability. The trillions of microorganisms living in your digestive tract do far more than help you process food. This gut microbiome produces neurotransmitters, including serotonin and gamma-aminobutyric acid, that communicate with the brain through the vagus nerve and the bloodstream. When the microbial community is balanced and diverse, these signals tend to promote calm and emotional resilience. Factors like diet, antibiotic use, and stress can all shift the composition of the gut microbiome. When the microbiome is disrupted by poor diet, stress, or illness, the chemical messages change, and mood often suffers. Animal studies show that transplanting gut bacteria from anxious mice to calm mice can transfer anxious behavior, and early human research hints at similar effects. The idea that your personality is influenced by microscopic creatures in your intestines may seem strange, but it reflects the profound interconnection of body and mind. Caring for your gut through diet and lifestyle is therefore another avenue for supporting emotional stability and overall well-being. Introverts and extroverts process dopamine in different ways. Dopamine is often called the reward molecule, and how your brain handles it plays a central role in whether you lean toward introversion or extroversion. Extroverts appear to have more active dopamine reward pathways, meaning they feel greater pleasure from external stimulation like social events, novel experiences, and excitement. This drives them to seek out stimulation repeatedly. Introverts, by contrast, may have a more sensitive dopamine response, reaching their threshold for stimulation more quickly. Additionally, introverts seem to rely more heavily on acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter associated with the parasympathetic nervous system and the pleasures of calm, focused attention. This neurochemical difference helps explain the different environments each type finds most comfortable and energizing. This different neurochemical profile explains why introverts often prefer quiet activities and deep one-on-one conversations, while extroverts thrive in larger, more dynamic environments. Neither system is superior, they simply represent different strategies for achieving optimal arousal. Understanding your dopamine style can help you design a life that suits your neurological needs. The prefrontal cortex is more active in conscientious people. Conscientiousness, the trait associated with organization, self-discipline, and careful planning, is closely linked to the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. Neuroimaging studies show that highly conscientious individuals tend to have greater activation in this region when making decisions, especially those involving delayed gratification or long-term goals. The prefrontal cortex enables you to resist impulses, weigh consequences, and follow through on commitments even when motivation wanes. People with stronger prefrontal activity find it easier to stick to routines, meet deadlines, and resist distractions. Brain imaging studies consistently show this pattern across different types of decision-making tasks. This does not mean less conscientious people lack willpower. It suggests that the neural circuitry supporting self-regulation varies in strength. Fortunately, the prefrontal cortex remains plastic and can be strengthened through practice, such as setting small goals and gradually increasing their difficulty. Every time you successfully delay gratification, you reinforce the circuits that support future conscientiousness. People high in openness have more connections between brain regions. Openness to experience is the personality trait most strongly associated with creativity, intellectual curiosity, and appreciation for art and abstract ideas. Neuroscientific research suggests that people high in openness have greater connectivity between distant brain regions, allowing information to flow more freely across the neural landscape. This enhanced communication may underlie the ability to form novel associations, see patterns where others see chaos, and think in unconventional ways. The default mode network, which supports imagination and self-reflection, is particularly well connected in open individuals. Additionally, they tend to show less rigidity in how their brains filter incoming sensory information, making them more receptive to subtle stimuli. Their sensory gating mechanisms allow more raw experience to reach conscious awareness. This neurological openness comes with both gifts and challenges. A mind that admits everything may sometimes feel overwhelmed or distracted. Yet it also sees beauty and possibility where others pass by without noticing. Neuroticism is linked to stronger emotional memory traces. People high in neuroticism experience negative emotions more intensely and more frequently, and this heightened reactivity leaves deeper imprints on memory. The amygdala, a brain structure central to processing threat and emotional significance, tends to be more reactive in neurotic individuals. When something upsetting happens, their brains tag the event with strong emotional markers, making it easier to recall later. This can lead to rumination, where painful memories replay again and again, reinforcing distress. The brain essentially overwrites neutral memories with emotionally charged versions that are harder to forget. On the positive side, strong emotional memory can also make neurotic individuals more empathetic and attuned to potential dangers, advantages that may have served survival in ancestral environments. Understanding this link helps explain why some people seem to hold on to painful experiences, while others move on more easily. It is not a failure of will, it is a difference in how the brain stores emotional events, one that can be gently moderated through therapeutic techniques and mindfulness practice. Agreeable people show synchronized brain activity with those around them. Agreeableness is characterized by warmth, cooperativeness, and concern for the welfare of others, and these qualities are reflected in patterns of brain activity. Studies using functional neuroimaging find that highly agreeable individuals display greater neural synchrony with the people around them, especially when watching the same emotional content. This synchrony occurs in regions involved in empathy, social cognition, and emotional processing. It is as though agreeable brains are tuned to harmonize with others, picking up on shared feelings and perspectives more readily. This neural attunement likely supports their ability to navigate social situations smoothly and maintain harmonious relationships. The downside is that agreeable people may sometimes absorb negativity from their environment, finding it hard to separate their own emotions from those of people around them. Yet this same sensitivity enables deep connection and the ability to provide genuine comfort to others. Your handwriting may reveal subtle clues about your temperament. The way you form letters, the pressure you apply to the page, and the slant of your script all carry traces of your personality. Graphology, the study of handwriting, has long claimed to decode character from penmanship, though mainstream psychology treats its more elaborate interpretations with skepticism. Still, research supports some modest connections. People high in neuroticism may show more variable letter sizes, while conscientious individuals tend to produce neater, more consistent script. Extroverts sometimes write with larger letters and broader strokes, as if their expansive energy spills onto the page. These correlations are subtle and far from diagnostic, but they hint at the profound way personality expresses itself through every action, even the simple act of writing. Your handwriting is a kind of physical footprint of your mind, shaped by muscle memory, mood, and the unique wiring of your nervous system. Brain injury or stroke can sometimes alter personality dramatically. One of the most striking demonstrations of the brain's role in personality comes from cases where injury or illness changes a person's character almost overnight. The famous case of Phineas Gage, a railway worker whose frontal lobe was pierced by an iron rod in the 19th century, showed that damage to specific brain areas could turn a responsible, mild-mannered man into someone impulsive and unreliable. Modern cases confirm that strokes, tumors, or traumatic injuries affecting the prefrontal cortex, amygdala, or other key regions can shift traits in profound ways. Patients may become more aggressive, more apathetic, or emotionally volatile, changes that are distressing both to them and to those who love them. These cases offer sobering evidence that personality is not an ethereal essence, but an emergent property of neural tissue. They also inspire compassion for those whose behavior changes after brain injury, reminding us that such shifts are medical events rather than moral failures. Musical preferences correlate with personality patterns across cultures. The music you choose to listen to is not random. It reflects deep aspects of who you are. Studies conducted in multiple countries find consistent links between personality traits and musical taste. People high in openness gravitate toward complex, novel, or unconventional genres like jazz, classical, or experimental music. Extroverts prefer upbeat, rhythmic music that matches their energetic approach to life, while those high in neuroticism may favor intense or melancholic sounds that resonate with their emotional depth. Conscientious individuals sometimes prefer familiar, predictable structures, finding comfort in patterns they can anticipate. These correlations appear across cultures, suggesting that the relationship between personality and music preference is rooted in universal aspects of human psychology. Listening to your favorite music is therefore a form of self-expression, a way of surrounding yourself with sounds that align with the inner landscape of your personality. Even your walking style can signal traits like dominance or openness. The way you move through the world carries information about your personality that others pick up, often without conscious awareness. Research shows that observers can make accurate judgments about traits like dominance, extroversion, and aggression simply by watching someone walk. A confident, swaggering stride may signal high dominance and self-assurance, while a quick, light step might suggest anxiety or openness to experience. The biomechanics of gait are shaped by muscle tone, habitual posture, and the subtle influence of mood, all of which are connected to underlying personality. Even artificial intelligence systems have been trained to infer personality traits from walking patterns with some accuracy. This raises fascinating questions about how much of our inner life is broadcast through our bodies. Your walk is a kind of signature, unique to you and quietly communicating aspects of who you are to everyone you pass. The pitch of your voice unconsciously communicates confidence levels. When you speak, the pitch, rhythm, and resonance of your voice convey information beyond the words themselves. Research shows that lower-pitched voices are often perceived as more confident, dominant, and authoritative, a pattern observed in both men and women. People who feel confident tend to speak with steadier, lower tones, while anxiety can raise pitch and introduce vocal tremors. Listeners pick up on these cues instantly, forming impressions about your personality before they have consciously processed the content of your speech. The link between voice and personality is partly biological, shaped by hormones and anatomy, and partly learned through social experience. Some public speakers deliberately train their voices to project calm authority. Yet even untrained voices carry the emotional signature of the speaker, revealing nervousness, enthusiasm, or certainty in every uttered word. Certain scents can make people appear more trustworthy to others. The sense of smell operates below the threshold of conscious awareness more often than we realize, and it plays a surprising role in social perception. Studies show that pleasant scents can make people seem more trustworthy, likable, and approachable, even when observers cannot consciously detect the odor. Conversely, unpleasant or unfamiliar smells can trigger subtle feelings of distrust or discomfort. The brain's olfactory system is directly connected to the limbic structures that process emotion and memory, allowing scent to influence mood and judgment without passing through rational filters first. This direct connection explains why certain smells can instantly trigger vivid memories or strong emotions. Some researchers speculate that body odor carries chemical signals about health, genetic compatibility, and emotional state, cues that humans pick up on subconsciously. Wearing a pleasant fragrance is therefore not merely a matter of fashion, it can genuinely shape how others perceive your personality and intentions. Scent is one of the most underestimated channels through which personality impressions are formed. Eye contact duration influences how assertive someone appears. The eyes are powerful communicators, and the length of time you hold someone's gaze sends strong signals about your personality. Longer, steady eye contact is typically perceived as a sign of confidence, dominance, and assertiveness. Those who break eye contact quickly or avert their gaze may be seen as shy, submissive, or less confident. Cultural norms shape what counts as appropriate, but the underlying biology is universal. Direct eye contact activates brain regions associated with threat detection and social bonding. Too much can feel aggressive, too little can seem evasive. Different cultures have developed distinct norms about appropriate eye contact duration and context. Skilled social actors learn to calibrate their gaze, using it to convey interest, warmth, or authority as the situation demands. Eye contact is also deeply tied to trust. We tend to believe people who look us in the eye. This simple behavior, lasting only seconds, can shape first impressions in ways that linger long after the encounter ends. Micro-expressions reveal genuine emotions, faster than conscious thought. Micro-expressions are fleeting facial movements that flash across the face in fractions of a second, revealing emotions before the conscious mind can mask them. These tiny expressions are genuine leakages of inner feeling, often invisible to casual observation but detectable by trained eyes or high-speed cameras. They occur because the muscles of the face respond to emotional signals from the brain more quickly than the prefrontal cortex can impose social control. Training to detect these fleeting expressions has become valuable in fields ranging from law enforcement to clinical psychology. A flash of contempt, a brief flicker of fear, or a momentary smile of genuine delight can pass in less than a quarter of a second. Security professionals and therapists sometimes train to spot these cues as windows into hidden emotional states. For most of us, micro-expressions remind us that our feelings constantly seek expression, regardless of our attempts to hide them. The face is a remarkably honest broadcaster, and personality seeps through even the most controlled exterior. Your choice of words reflects deep dimensions of personality. The words you use in everyday speech reveal far more about you than their literal meaning. Psychological research on language patterns shows that extroverts use more social and positive words, while introverts tend toward more nuanced and reflective language. People high in neuroticism use more negative emotion words and first-person singular pronouns like I and me, reflecting a focus on the self and its struggles. Conscientious individuals favor words related to achievement and structure, while those high in openness use larger vocabularies and more unusual word choices. Researchers have developed algorithms that can predict personality from text with surprising accuracy. These patterns emerge even in casual conversation and can be detected by computer algorithms analyzing text. Your linguistic style is a fingerprint, shaped by your personality so subtly that you are rarely aware of it. Yet to those who know how to listen, every sentence you speak paints a portrait of your inner world. People form accurate first impressions of traits within moments. Within seconds of meeting someone, you have already begun to form impressions about their personality, and remarkably, these snap judgments often contain a kernel of truth. Research shows that people can accurately gauge traits like extroversion, conscientiousness, and openness from brief glimpses of a face or a few seconds of behavior. The brain is finely tuned to extract social information rapidly, a skill that likely evolved to help our ancestors navigate complex group dynamics. First impressions are not perfect, of course. They are shaped by biases and stereotypes. Physical attractiveness, for example, can create a halo effect that distorts other judgments. Yet the fact that they contain any accuracy at all speaks to the visibility of personality in gesture, expression, and posture. Knowing that you are being judged so quickly can feel unsettling, but it also means that authenticity matters. The way you carry yourself in those first moments communicates more than any carefully crafted introduction. The left and right sides of the face can show different emotions. The human face is not perfectly symmetrical, and this asymmetry extends to emotional expression. Research suggests that the left side of the face, controlled primarily by the right hemisphere of the brain, tends to display spontaneous emotions more intensely than the right side. When someone smiles genuinely, the left side of their face may lift more dramatically. When they suppress an emotion, asymmetry can reveal the effort. Trained observers sometimes look for these discrepancies as cues to hidden feelings or masked intentions. The effect is subtle and varies between individuals, but it reminds us that the face is not a simple billboard for emotion. It is a complex landscape where multiple signals compete and blend. Personality influences which emotions you habitually express, and how symmetrically your face broadcasts them, adding another layer to the non-verbal story you tell the world. Animals can detect aspects of human personality through scent and tone. Dogs, horses, and other social animals are remarkably attuned to human emotional states, and may even pick up on stable personality traits. Dogs in particular can detect fear, stress, and happiness through the chemicals released in human sweat, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. They also respond to the tone and rhythm of speech, sensing confidence or anxiety in your voice before you are consciously aware of projecting it. Horses have been shown to remember humans who approach them with calm versus anxious body language, and treat them differently in later encounters. These animals are essentially reading our personalities through sensory channels we often overlook. Living with pets can therefore become a feedback loop, revealing aspects of your temperament through the animal's reactions. The bond between humans and animals is a silent conversation, shaped by personality on both sides. Digital avatars often mirror our real personalities without our knowing. When people create avatars for games, social media, or virtual worlds, they tend to infuse those digital representations with aspects of their real personality, often without realizing it. Extroverts may design bolder, more colorful characters, while introverts might choose subtler, more understated looks. The customization options available in modern games and platforms provide rich data for personality researchers. Agreeable individuals create friendlier-looking avatars, and those high in openness experiment with unusual features or styles. Researchers have found that observers can make accurate personality judgments about the avatar's creator based solely on the digital image. This unconscious self-expression occurs because the same mental processes that guide real-world behavior influence virtual choices. Your avatar is not an escape from who you are. It is another canvas on which your personality paints itself. Even in entirely fictional spaces, personality finds ways to leak through. Online behavior patterns can predict personality better than casual friends. The digital traces you leave, your likes, posts, browsing habits, and social network connections, contain enough information to infer your personality with surprising accuracy. Studies have shown that algorithms analyzing social media data can predict personality traits better than friends or family members who know you casually, sometimes even better than close acquaintances. With enough data points, these systems can detect subtle patterns invisible to human observers. This is because your online behavior aggregates thousands of small decisions that reflect your preferences, values, and habits. The patterns are too subtle for humans to notice consciously, but clear enough for machine learning to detect. This raises both opportunities and concerns, as such predictions can be used for personalized content or manipulated for persuasion. Understanding how much your digital footprint reveals about your personality is the first step toward thoughtfully managing your online presence. The way you use emojis reveals something about your character. Emojis have become a universal part of digital communication, and the way you deploy them says something about your personality. Extroverts tend to use emojis more frequently and favor cheerful, expressive icons. Agreeable people often choose softer symbols like hearts and smiles, while those high in openness may experiment with unusual or ironic emoji combinations. Conscientious individuals sometimes use fewer emojis, preferring clarity over embellishment. Even the timing and placement of emojis in a message carries information, reflecting social attentiveness and emotional expressiveness. These patterns are subtle but consistent enough that researchers have begun studying emoji use as a window into personality. Your emoji choices are tiny windows into your emotional style, broadcasting warmth, playfulness, or restraint with each character you select. Personality shapes how time feels as it passes. Time is not merely a matter of clocks. It is a subjective experience colored by personality. Some people feel hours rushing past like leaves in a storm, while others sense each minute stretching endlessly. Extroverts, who thrive on stimulation, often experience time as passing quickly when engaged in exciting activities and slowly when bored. Introverts may feel the opposite, losing track of time during solitary contemplation. Anxiety tends to distort time perception, making waits feel interminable and deadlines seem to loom. Calm, mindful individuals often report a more balanced sense of time, neither rushed nor stagnant. These differences emerge from how the brain processes arousal, attention, and emotion, all of which are shaped by personality. Your experience of time is personal, filtered through the same neural architecture that creates your thoughts and feelings. Risk-takers often perceive time as moving faster than it actually does. People who seek thrills and embrace risk tend to experience time differently from cautious individuals. Studies show that sensation seekers often underestimate the passage of time, perceiving a given interval as shorter than it actually was. This may be linked to their heightened dopamine activity. When the brain is flooded with reward signals, time seems to fly. The result is a cycle in which risk-takers chase ever more intense experiences to recapture the excitement that made time blur. In extreme cases, this can contribute to impulsive decisions, as future consequences feel distant and abstract. Understanding this perceptual bias can help risk-prone individuals pause and recalibrate when making important choices, recognizing that their sense of time may be unreliable. Time's subjective speed is another strand in the web of personality, shaping choices in ways we rarely notice. Conscientious people tend to plan further into the future. Conscientiousness is associated with the ability to delay gratification and work toward long-term goals. This trait manifests in how people conceptualize the future. Highly conscientious individuals often imagine events years ahead with clarity and detail, making plans that span months or decades. They save for retirement, pursue extended education, and invest in relationships that will pay dividends far in the future. Financial planning tools and long-term commitment strategies often come more naturally to them. Less conscientious people may focus more on immediate rewards, finding long-term planning abstract or unappealing. The difference is partly rooted in prefrontal cortex activity, which supports the mental time travel required to envision and pursue distant outcomes. Knowing where you fall on this continuum helps explain your saving habits, career choices, and even health behaviors. The ability to project yourself into the future and care about that future self is a quiet but powerful aspect of personality. Those high in neuroticism travel mentally into the past more often. Neurotic individuals tend to spend more time mentally revisiting past events, especially negative ones. This rumination involves replaying memories, analyzing what went wrong, and imagining alternative outcomes that never came to pass. While some reflection is healthy, excessive backward focus can amplify regret and sustain emotional distress. Brain imaging studies show that neurotic people have stronger activation in memory and emotion regions when prompted to recall failures or embarrassments. This neural pattern makes the past seem more present and more painful. The past looms larger for them, coloring the present with shadows of old wounds. Learning to redirect attention toward the present moment is often a key therapeutic goal for those struggling with this tendency. The mind's time machine works differently for everyone, and personality strongly influences where it tends to travel. extroverts tend to estimate durations more optimistically. When asked how long a task will take, extroverts frequently underestimate compared to their introverted counterparts. This optimism may stem from their positive emotional baseline and higher tolerance for stimulation. They assume that engaging activities will pass quickly and that they can handle more than they sometimes can. The result can be overcommitment, missed deadlines, and the chaotic energy of trying to fit too much into too little time. Introverts, with their more cautious approach, often build in buffers and anticipate delays. Neither extreme is ideal. The best planners balance enthusiasm with realism. Recognizing your own bias in time estimation is a practical insight drawn from personality science, helping you schedule more wisely and honor commitments more reliably. The way you remember your past reflects your personality style. Memory is not a neutral recording of events, it is filtered through personality. Optimistic people recall fewer negative experiences and often remember successes more vividly than failures. Neurotic individuals do the opposite, holding tightly to moments of pain and embarrassment. Agreeable people may remember social interactions in warmer tones, smoothing over conflict, while those low in agreeableness recall slights and disputes more sharply. These biases mean that two people who experienced the same event may construct very different memories of it. Your autobiographical narrative, the story you tell yourself about your life, reflects your personality as much as it reflects objective facts. Understanding this helps explain disagreements about the past and encourages humility about your own recollections. What we remember is as much a creation of personality as a record of events. Some people imagine the future more vividly than others. The ability to mentally simulate future events varies considerably between individuals and is linked to personality traits like openness and neuroticism. People high in openness often generate rich, detailed mental images of possible futures, including creative possibilities that others might never consider. They can mentally simulate multiple scenarios and explore their implications before making decisions. Neurotic individuals may also imagine the future intensely, but their visions tend to skew negative, populated by anticipated failures and dangers. Those low in imaginative engagement may find it hard to picture the future at all, living more firmly in the present. Vivid future thinking supports goal pursuit, motivation, and emotional anticipation, but it can also fuel anxiety if worst-case scenarios dominate. The texture of your mental future is shaped by the same personality dimensions that color the rest of your inner life. Optimists recall fewer failures, even when reminded of them. Optimism acts as a memory filter, subtly minimizing negative experiences when recalling the past. Even when researchers provide reminders of past failures, optimists tend to remember fewer details about these events and underestimate their severity. This selective memory is not deliberate dishonesty. It appears to be an automatic process rooted in how positive emotion biases encoding and retrieval. The advantage is psychological resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks without being weighed down by every mistake. This selective memory acts as a natural antidepressant, maintaining a positive self-image. The risk is that important lessons may be overlooked. A moderate optimism bias keeps spirits high without completely distorting reality, but extreme forms can lead to repeating preventable errors. Personality shapes not just how you feel in the moment, but how you reconstruct the past to support your emotional style. Pessimists focus on possible dangers even in safe environments. Pessimism reflects a heightened sensitivity to threat, and this vigilance persists even when objective risks are low. Pessimistic individuals scan their environment for potential problems, allocating more attention to shadows than to sunlight. Brain imaging shows that they often have more reactive amygdalae, the structures that flag danger and prepare the body for defense. This hyperactive threat detection system evolved for genuinely dangerous environments, but may be less adaptive in modern life. This hypervigilance may have served ancestors well in genuinely hazardous environments, but in modern contexts, it can generate chronic stress and dampen enjoyment of safe situations. Pessimists may miss opportunities because they are too focused on what could go wrong. Recognizing this attentional bias is the first step toward consciously redirecting focus, allowing room for positive possibilities without abandoning prudent caution. Safety and danger are partly objective and partly constructed by the personality that perceives them. Your sense of continuity through time links to personality stability. The feeling that you are the same person today as you were yesterday and will be tomorrow is not a given. It is constructed by the brain and influenced by personality traits. People with stable personalities tend to have a stronger sense of personal continuity, experiencing life as a coherent narrative with themes that persist over decades. Those whose traits fluctuate or who suffer disruptions like trauma may feel less connected to their past or future selves. This sense of continuity supports identity, long-term planning, and emotional well-being. When it weakens, people may struggle with questions of meaning and direction. Existential crises often involve disruptions to this sense of continuity. Understanding that continuity is both a psychological construction and a product of stable personality can encourage compassion for those whose sense of self feels fragmented and gratitude for those whose identity feels whole. Personality influences how strongly you experience emotions. Not everyone feels emotions with the same intensity. Some people ride towering waves of joy and despair, while others navigate calmer waters. This variation in emotional intensity is closely tied to personality traits like neuroticism and extroversion. Highly neurotic individuals experience negative emotions more sharply, while extroverts often feel positive emotions with greater vibrancy. The underlying biology involves differences in limbic system reactivity, the speed and strength of emotional signals traveling through the brain. High-intensity emoters may find life more vivid, but also more exhausting. Low-intensity emoters may appear calm but sometimes struggle to connect with more expressive others. These differences often become apparent in close relationships, where partners may have different emotional styles. Neither pattern is wrong. Both reflect the diverse strategies the human species uses to navigate a complex world. Knowing your emotional intensity profile helps you understand your reactions and communicate your experience to those who feel differently. Partners with different intensity levels can learn to bridge their differences with patience and clear communication. Extroverts show stronger neural reactions to rewards. When something good happens, extroverts experience a more pronounced neurological response than introverts. Brain scans reveal that reward centers, particularly the nucleus accumbens and related dopaminergic pathways, light up more intensely in extroverted individuals when they anticipate or receive a reward. This stronger signal translates into greater subjective pleasure, reinforcing the behaviors that led to the reward. The reward anticipation phase may be even more pronounced than the reward receipt itself. As a result, extroverts are drawn towards situations that promise positive outcomes, from social gatherings to competitive games to new experiences. Introverts, with more modest reward responses, are not less happy. They simply derive pleasure from different, often quieter sources. The quality of experience matters more to introverts than the intensity. This difference in neural reward processing is one of the clearest biological markers, distinguishing the two personality types, and explains much of their contrasting lifestyles. Neuroticism amplifies threat perception in the amygdala. The amygdala is the brain's alarm system, rapidly detecting potential threats and triggering defensive responses. In people high in neuroticism, this structure tends to be more reactive, responding to smaller or more ambiguous signals as if they were serious dangers. A neutral facial expression may be interpreted as disapproval. A minor setback may feel like a catastrophe. This amplified threat perception creates a world that feels more dangerous than it objectively is, fueling anxiety, worry, and emotional volatility. Neurotic individuals may perceive neutral situations as potentially threatening or ambiguous facial expressions as negative. The heightened amygdala activity is partly genetic and partly shaped by life experience, particularly early stress. Understanding this mechanism helps explain why some people struggle to relax, even in safe situations. Therapies that target the amygdala's responses, including exposure techniques and mindfulness, can gradually reduce this oversensitivity, allowing a more balanced perception of risk. Such interventions require patience, but can produce lasting changes in threat perception. Agreeable people process empathy through distinct brain circuits. Empathy, the ability to understand and share another's feelings, relies on a network of brain regions that function differently depending on personality. Highly agreeable individuals show greater activation in the anterior insular and anterior cingulate cortex, areas involved in emotional resonance and social concern. They are quicker to pick up on others' distress and more motivated to help. These neural patterns emerge in response to faces, voices, and stories of suffering, translating sensory input into felt compassion. Less agreeable people are not devoid of empathy, but may process it through cooler, more cognitive routes, analyzing rather than absorbing the experience. The warm, automatic empathy of agreeable individuals makes them natural caregivers, but can also leave them vulnerable to burnout and emotional contagion. Understanding your own empathic style helps you give care sustainably. Setting boundaries is not a failure of empathy, but a prerequisite for its continued expression. Creative minds have more communication between emotional and cognitive regions. Creativity involves generating novel and useful ideas, and this capacity is supported by unusual patterns of brain connectivity. Highly creative individuals show stronger communication between regions responsible for emotion, memory, and executive control. The default mode network, which generates spontaneous thought, collaborates more readily with the executive network, which evaluates and refines ideas. Emotional centers add effective meaning to otherwise abstract concepts, producing work that resonates with audiences. This crosstalk allows creative people to draw on diverse sources of information, combining memories, feelings, and logical analyses into original syntheses. Studies of highly creative individuals show they can flexibly switch between focused and diffuse thinking modes. The connectivity is partly innate and can be enhanced by environments that encourage exploration and tolerate failure. A creative brain is essentially one where different departments of the mind converse more freely, producing ideas that a more compartmentalized brain might never conceive. This integration of diverse mental processes is the hallmark of creative genius. High openness is linked to richer sensory experiences. People high in openness do not merely embrace new ideas, they also perceive the sensory world with greater richness and depth. Research suggests that their brains filter out fewer subtle stimuli, allowing more information to reach conscious awareness. Colors may appear more vivid, sounds more layered, textures more evocative. This perceptual openness contributes to their appreciation of art, music, and natural beauty, as they notice details that others overlook. It can also make them more easily distracted or overstimulated in busy environments. The trait correlates with activity in sensory processing regions and with the thickness of certain cortical areas. Experiencing the world in high definition is both a gift and a burden, offering profound aesthetic pleasure while sometimes overwhelming the system. Understanding this sensory style helps open individuals design environments that nourish rather than exhaust them. Strategic retreats from sensory overload can help maintain optimal functioning. People with low openness may filter out subtle sensations. On the opposite end of the openness spectrum, some individuals process the sensory world in a more streamlined fashion. Their brains efficiently filter out what they consider irrelevant stimuli, allowing them to focus on practical goals without distraction. While this can make them highly effective in structured, goal-oriented tasks, it may also mean they miss the subtleties that enrich aesthetic and emotional experience. A sunset may simply be a sunset, a piece of music merely background noise. These individuals are not less intelligent or less capable of pleasure, they simply process the world through a different filter. Understanding this variation helps explain why some people are captivated by art and poetry, while others prefer concrete, tangible achievements. Both styles are valid adaptations to the complexity of life. Neither represents a deficit. Each offers distinct advantages in different contexts. Some personalities experience awe more easily than others. Awe is that rare emotion triggered by vast, transcendent experiences, moments when you feel small in the presence of something immense and wondrous. Personality shapes how often and how intensely you encounter this feeling. Those high in openness report experiencing awe more frequently, whether gazing at a starry sky, standing before a grand cathedral, or contemplating an elegant mathematical proof. Their brains seem primed to perceive vastness and to respond with the characteristic mix of wonder and humility. Less open individuals may admire the same stimuli, but without the overwhelming, self-diminishing sensation that defines true awe. Cultivating exposure to nature, art, and ideas larger than daily life can gently nudge anyone toward more awe, with benefits for well-being and humility. Awe reminds us that personality colors not just what we think, but how deeply we can feel. The capacity for wonder correlates with mental flexibility. Wonder is the intellectual cousin of awe, involving curiosity and delight when confronted with the mysterious or the beautiful. Research links the capacity for wonder to mental flexibility, the ability to shift perspectives, update beliefs, and consider unconventional ideas. Mentally flexible people are less likely to cling to fixed opinions and more willing to follow evidence wherever it leads. This openness supports creativity, learning, and adaptation to change. Those who rarely experience wonder may also resist revising outdated assumptions, preferring certainty to exploration. Cultivating wonder through reading, travel, and exposure to diverse viewpoints can gradually expand mental flexibility. The mind that wanders is a mind prepared to grow, embracing the uncertainty that learning requires. Your sense of humor reveals more about your psyche than you might think. Humor is deeply personal, and the jokes you find funny are windows into your personality. Research links different comedy preferences to different trait profiles. People high in openness enjoy absurd, unconventional humor, while agreeable individuals prefer gentle, affiliative jokes that bring people together. Those with dark humor tastes tend to score higher in intelligence and lower in emotional sensitivity. Extroverts often favor loud, physical comedy, and introverts may prefer subtle wit or wordplay. Sense of humor also correlates with coping style. Using humor to manage stress is a hallmark of resilient personalities. Understanding what makes you laugh can illuminate aspects of your psyche that remain hidden in everyday conversation. Humor is both a social signal and a personal fingerprint, revealing far more than its playful surface might suggest. Appreciation of dark humor correlates with intelligence and low aggression. Dark humor deals with taboo topics like death, illness, and tragedy, and not everyone finds it funny. Research suggests that those who appreciate dark comedy tend to score higher on measures of verbal and nonverbal intelligence. This may be because understanding such humor requires cognitive effort, the ability to perceive multiple layers of meaning, and to separate the joke from its disturbing content. Surprisingly, fans of dark humor also tend to show lower aggression and better emotional regulation. The enjoyment seems to represent a sophisticated coping mechanism rather than callousness. Dark jokes allow people to confront uncomfortable truths in a safe, controlled context. By laughing at mortality and misfortune, they diffuse anxiety without acting out. This finding challenges stereotypes that link dark humor to cruelty. Instead, it appears to be a mark of mental agility and emotional resilience. Understanding sarcasm activates complex reasoning regions of the brain. Sarcasm is a layered form of communication in which the literal meaning of words is the opposite of the intended message. Successfully decoding sarcasm requires the listener to infer the speaker's intentions, consider context, and recognize vocal or facial cues that signal irony. Brain imaging shows that understanding sarcasm activates the prefrontal cortex and the right hemisphere, regions involved in abstract thinking and social cognition. People with damage to these areas, or certain developmental conditions affecting theory of mind, may struggle to detect sarcasm. The ability to use and appreciate sarcasm correlates with personality traits like openness and extroversion. Those who wield sarcasm well often demonstrate mental flexibility, while those who miss it may prefer more literal communication styles. People who laugh easily tend to form stronger social bonds. Laughter is a universal social signal, and individuals who laugh readily tend to attract others and cement stronger relationships. Shared laughter releases endorphins, the brain's natural painkillers, creating feelings of warmth and connection between people. These neurochemical bonds can form surprisingly quickly through genuine shared laughter. Those who laugh easily signal that they are approachable, good-natured, and fun to be around, qualities that enhance likability. They also tend to score higher on extroversion and agreeableness, traits that further facilitate social bonding. Laughter can diffuse tension, smooth over awkward moments, and build trust surprisingly quickly. Relationships that include frequent laughter tend to be more resilient under stress. This simple reflexive behavior is a powerful social glue, binding personalities together through shared joy. Personality determines whether stress energizes or exhausts you. Not everyone responds to stress in the same way. Some people thrive under pressure, experiencing a rush of energy and focus that sharpens their performance. Others find stress depleting, leaving them anxious, fatigued, and unable to think clearly. This divergence is closely linked to personality traits. Extroverts and people low in neuroticism often experience stress as a challenge to be mastered, while introverts and highly neurotic individuals may perceive it as an overwhelming threat. The underlying biology involves the sympathetic nervous system and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which regulate arousal and cortisol release. Individual differences in these systems explain why some people thrive under pressure, while others wilt. Understanding how your personality shapes your stress response can help you develop coping strategies tailored to your unique wiring. Self-awareness about your stress profile allows more effective self-care. What drains one person may fuel another, and there is no single right way to react. Optimists recover faster from emotional setbacks. Optimistic individuals tend to bounce back from disappointments and failures more quickly than their pessimistic peers. Their positive expectations act as a psychological cushion, softening the impact of bad news and maintaining forward momentum. When something goes wrong, optimists are more likely to reframe the situation as temporary and surmountable, rather than as a permanent verdict on their worth. This resilience is supported by neurological differences. Optimists often have better regulated stress hormones and stronger activity in brain regions associated with reward and motivation. Their speedier emotional recovery allows them to re-engage with goals and relationships sooner, creating a positive feedback loop of effort and achievement. This positive feedback loop means that optimism tends to be self-reinforcing over time. Cultivating optimism, even modestly, can have lasting benefits for mental health and life satisfaction. Chronic pessimism can subtly shorten lifespan over decades. Pessimism is not merely an unpleasant mental habit. It carries tangible health consequences. Long-term studies have found that persistently pessimistic individuals face higher risks of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, and premature death. The chronic stress associated with negative expectations keeps the body in a state of low-grade inflammation and elevated cortisol, wearing down organs over time. Pessimists may also engage in fewer health-promoting behaviors, such as exercise and preventive health care, reasoning that effort is futile. The effect is not dramatic year to year, but accumulates across decades, shortening life expectancy measurably. Recognizing pessimism as a modifiable habit rather than a fixed trait opens the door to interventions that can improve both outlook and longevity. Cognitive behavioral techniques have shown success in shifting pessimistic thinking patterns. Personality is not destiny. Even deeply rooted tendencies can shift with effort. Extroverts tend to underestimate risks and overestimate control. Extroverts are drawn to action and novelty, and this orientation comes with a characteristic blind spot. Research shows that extroverts often underestimate the probability of negative outcomes and overestimate their ability to influence events through skill and effort. This optimistic bias fuels their willingness to take risks, but can lead to overconfidence in ambiguous situations. They may assume they can handle challenges that would give others pause, sometimes succeeding spectacularly and sometimes failing unexpectedly. Introverts, by contrast, tend to calibrate risk more cautiously, preferring known quantities to gambles. Neither approach is universally better. The ideal often involves teams where extroverts push forward and introverts apply the brakes. Understanding your own bias helps you seek counsel from those with complementary perspectives. Conscientious people live longer on average than impulsive ones. Conscientiousness is one of the strongest personality predictors of longevity. Highly conscientious individuals are more likely to follow medical advice, maintain healthy diets, exercise regularly, avoid substance abuse, and wear seatbelts. These accumulated small decisions add up over decades, protecting against preventable diseases and accidents. Furthermore, conscientious people tend to experience less chronic stress because they plan ahead and avoid the crises that ambush the unprepared. Their relationships are often more stable, providing social support that buffers health. Impulsive people, who act on immediate desires without considering consequences, face elevated risks across multiple domains. The lesson is not to suppress spontaneity entirely, but to cultivate just enough conscientiousness to protect future well-being. Impulsivity is partly inherited and partly shaped by environment. Impulsivity, the tendency to act without thinking, has roots in both genetics and upbringing. Twin studies suggest that a significant portion of the variance in impulsive behavior is heritable, linked to dopamine-related genes and frontal lobe development. However, environment matters too. Chaotic or inconsistent parenting, early exposure to trauma, and lack of structure can weaken impulse control. The brain's prefrontal cortex, which supports self-regulation, continues developing into the mid-20s, meaning that environment during adolescence is especially influential. Fortunately, impulsivity is not fixed. Practices like mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and structured goal setting can strengthen self-control over time. Research shows that impulse control skills developed in adulthood can become as robust as those developed in childhood. Understanding impulsivity as a modifiable trait rather than a moral failing encourages compassionate and effective intervention. Personality predicts financial habits and career satisfaction. Your personality shapes how you earn, spend, and save money, as well as how satisfied you feel in your career. Conscientious individuals tend to budget carefully, avoid reckless debt, and build savings over time. Extroverts may earn more through networking and negotiation, but also spend more freely on experiences and socializing. Neurotic people sometimes engage in stress-induced shopping or avoid financial planning due to anxiety. Career satisfaction also aligns with personality fit. Extroverts thrive in people-oriented roles, introverts prefer solitary or small team work, and those high in openness seek creative positions. When personality and job match well, satisfaction and performance rise. When mismatched, burnout and turnover follow. Career coaching often begins with personality assessment for this reason. Understanding these links helps individuals choose careers and financial strategies aligned with their natural tendencies. Leaders tend to show high extroversion and low neuroticism. Effective leaders often share certain personality characteristics, most notably high extroversion and low neuroticism. Extroversion brings the social energy, assertiveness, and comfort with visibility that leadership often requires. Low neuroticism provides emotional stability, allowing leaders to remain calm under pressure and project confidence to those they lead. These traits together foster trust, inspire followers, and enable decisive action in uncertain situations. Of course, effective leaders come in many forms, and introverted or highly neurotic individuals can lead successfully by leveraging other strengths, like conscientiousness, intelligence, or empathy. Context matters. Some situations favor calm, reflective leaders over dynamic, charismatic ones. Yet the statistical pattern holds. Across organizations and cultures, the personality profile of leaders tends to cluster around these two dimensions. Leadership development programs often focus on cultivating emotional stability alongside interpersonal skills. Creativity thrives in people high in openness and low in conformity. Creative accomplishment requires a personality willing to venture beyond established paths. Openness to experience is the trait most strongly associated with creativity, providing the curiosity, imagination, and tolerance for ambiguity needed to generate original ideas. But openness alone is not enough. Creative individuals must also resist the social pressure to conform. They value authenticity over approval and are willing to endure rejection or criticism to pursue their vision. This independence of thought is rooted in both personality and environment. Supportive cultures help creatives flourish while stifling ones suppress them. The interplay between openness and nonconformity produces the artists, inventors, and innovators who shift paradigms. If you aspire to creativity, cultivating both traits through deliberate exposure and mindful resistance to groupthink can help unlock your potential. Creative environments often intentionally foster psychological safety that encourages nonconformity. Empaths automatically mirror the facial muscles of others. People high in empathy often unconsciously mimic the facial expressions of those around them, a phenomenon called facial mimicry. When you see someone smile, micro-expressions briefly flicker across your own face, even if you do not consciously notice. Empathic individuals show stronger and faster mimicry, which feeds back into their emotional experience, helping them literally feel what others feel. This mirroring is supported by mirror neuron systems in the brain and is part of the biological substrate of empathy. The automatic nature of mimicry means that empaths may absorb the emotions of crowds without intending to, sometimes leading to emotional contagion and fatigue. Understanding this reflex can help empaths protect their energy while still honoring their gift for connection. Boundary-setting skills and regular solitude are often essential self-care practices for empathic personalities. Agreeable people are more likely to forgive betrayal. Forgiveness is easier for some people than for others, and personality plays a significant role. Highly agreeable individuals, with their emphasis on harmony and concern for others, tend to forgive transgressions more readily than their less agreeable peers. They are more likely to attribute offensive behavior to circumstances rather than character, and they value restoring relationships over exacting revenge. This forgiving nature can protect mental health by releasing the corrosive effects of resentment. However, it can also leave agreeable people vulnerable to repeated exploitation if they forgive too readily, without demanding changed behavior. Striking a balance between forgiveness and boundaries is a lifelong challenge shaped by personality. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. It can be a private release that benefits the forgiver most. Those low in agreeableness may need to cultivate forgiveness for their own well-being, even when it does not come naturally. Narcissism can sometimes mask fragile self-esteem beneath the surface. Narcissism is characterized by grandiosity, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Yet beneath this confident exterior, many narcissists harbor deep insecurity and fragile self-esteem. Criticism that would roll off a secure individual triggers intense defensive reactions in the narcissist, revealing the vulnerability beneath the bravado. This fragility drives the endless pursuit of validation. The narcissist must constantly refill an empty reservoir of self-worth. Understanding this dynamic is useful for those who interact with narcissistic individuals, as it explains why apparent confidence can coexist with hypersensitivity to perceived slights. The gap between the grandiose self-image and the fragile reality creates constant internal tension. Treatment approaches often aim to build genuine self-esteem from within, rather than relying on external approval. The mask of narcissism hides a wound that, with effort, can sometimes heal. Psychopathy and empathy exist on a shared neural spectrum. Psychopathy is defined by a lack of empathy, shallow emotions, and manipulative behavior, traits that exist on a continuum, rather than as a discrete category. At one end of this spectrum lie individuals with rich empathic responses who feel others' pain deeply. At the other end are those who perceive emotions intellectually, but do not feel them viscerally. Brain studies show that psychopathic individuals have reduced activity in the amygdala and regions involved in emotional empathy, while cognitive empathy, the ability to understand what others feel without sharing it may remain intact. This allows skilled manipulation without guilt. Most people fall somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, with moderate empathic ability. Recognizing that empathy and its absence are neurological variations helps destigmatize the topic and guides treatment efforts for those who wish to develop greater emotional connection. Interventions aimed at developing empathy focus on experiential and perspective-taking exercises. Highly conscientious people experience guilt more intensely. Guilt is the uncomfortable feeling that arises when you believe you have violated your own standards, and conscientious individuals feel it more acutely. Their strong sense of duty, responsibility, and self-discipline means that lapses loom large in their minds. Even minor infractions trigger significant distress, motivating them to correct mistakes and apologize quickly. This intense guilt serves a social function, maintaining trust and accountability, but it can also burden conscientious people with excessive self-blame. When guilt becomes chronic, it may shade into shame and erode self-worth. Learning to distinguish proportionate guilt from perfectionism-driven guilt is an ongoing task for highly conscientious individuals. Therapy can help recalibrate the guilt response to more appropriate levels. Healthy guilt motivates repair. Unhealthy guilt simply punishes unnecessarily. Humility correlates with more accurate self-perception. Humble individuals tend to see themselves more clearly than those who inflate their abilities. Humility involves accepting both strengths and weaknesses without defensiveness, which opens the door to honest self-assessment and growth. Research shows that humble people are better calibrated when estimating their own performance. They neither overestimate nor drastically underestimate. This accuracy helps them seek appropriate challenges, accept useful feedback, and avoid overcommitting. Humility also enhances relationships, as others trust those who acknowledge limitations, rather than projecting false confidence. Far from being a weakness, humility is a quiet strength that supports learning and integrity. Humble leaders inspire loyalty and trust precisely because they admit what they do not know. The humble person sees reality as it is, rather than as ego would prefer. Confidence can be taught through repeated success experiences. Confidence is not a fixed trait, but a dynamic one, shaped significantly by experience. When you attempt something challenging and succeed, the brain registers a reward that reinforces the belief you can succeed again. Repeated successes, particularly ones that stretch you just beyond your current abilities, build a foundation of self-efficacy that feels like natural confidence. Conversely, repeated failures can erode belief in your capabilities. The emotional experience of failure can be moderated by framing setbacks as learning opportunities, rather than verdicts on ability. Educators and coaches often design progressive challenges to cultivate confidence step by step, ensuring that early wins build the momentum for later, harder tasks. Even deeply shy or anxious individuals can develop genuine confidence through this gradual process. The key is ensuring that challenges remain within reach, while still requiring effort and growth. The brain learns confidence the same way it learns anything else, through practice and feedback. Personality shifts slightly every 7 to 10 years. Longitudinal research tracking individuals over decades reveals that personality is not as fixed as once believed. While the core structure remains stable, the exact levels of traits like neuroticism, extroversion, and conscientiousness shift gradually over time. Most people become slightly more agreeable, conscientious, and emotionally stable as they move from young adulthood into middle age. These changes often go unnoticed because they are slow and incremental. Year by year, subtle shifts accumulate until the person looking back is recognizably different from their younger self. life circumstances, relationships, and deliberate efforts at self-improvement all contribute to the drift. The person you were at 40 is recognizably you, but subtly different from the person you were at 30. Understanding this natural evolution encourages patience with yourself and hope that undesirable traits can soften over time. The trajectory of change is generally toward greater maturity and integration. Adolescence is a critical window for shaping personality structure. The teenage years are a period of profound brain development and social exploration, making adolescence especially influential for personality formation. The prefrontal cortex is still maturing, impulse control is developing, and identity is being actively constructed through experimentation and feedback. Experiences during this window, whether positive mentors, traumatic events, or first loves, leave lasting marks on the neural circuits underlying personality. Peer influences are particularly potent, as adolescents are highly sensitive to social feedback and often redefine themselves in relation to their chosen groups. The habits and patterns established during these years can persist into adulthood. Identity formation during adolescence involves trying on different versions of the self to see which fits best. This plasticity is both an opportunity and a vulnerability. Supportive environments can shape resilient, well-adjusted personalities, while adverse ones may leave enduring scars. Investing in adolescent well-being pays dividends that last a lifetime. The lessons learned and habits formed during these years create templates for adult functioning. Personality tends to stabilize around the age of 30. Although personality continues to shift throughout life, the rate of change slows considerably after the age of 30. By this point, most people have established stable roles, including career paths, long-term relationships, and social networks that reinforce consistent ways of thinking and behaving. The brain's prefrontal cortex has completed its maturation, providing a more stable foundation for self-regulation. Major life decisions often feel more settled, reducing the environmental pressures that drive rapid personality change. The brain structure itself becomes more stable, supporting consistent patterns of thought and behavior. This does not mean that growth stops, rather, it proceeds more gradually, like the slow erosion of a canyon rather than the flooding of a river. The 30s often bring a sense of arriving at a more settled self, even as deeper currents of change continue beneath the surface. This stability provides a platform from which continued growth can proceed more intentionally. Major life events like marriage or parenthood can shift traits. Life transitions such as marriage and parenthood bring new roles and responsibilities that can reshape personality. Studies show that becoming a parent often increases conscientiousness and agreeableness, as the demands of caregiving require planning, patience, and selflessness. Marriage tends to promote emotional stability, at least when the relationship is healthy and supportive. Conversely, divorce or the loss of a loved one can temporarily destabilize traits, increasing neuroticism or introversion during the grieving period. These shifts remind us that personality is not sealed off from life circumstances. It responds and adapts to the roles we play. The person you become as a parent is shaped by the experience of parenting itself, not just by the traits you brought into it. Children often serve as mirrors, reflecting aspects of the parent's personality that might otherwise remain hidden. Trauma can compress personality into survival-focused patterns. Severe trauma can narrow the range of personality expression, orienting the entire system toward survival. When the brain perceives ongoing threat, it shifts into a state of hypervigilance, suppressing exploratory behaviors and amplifying fear responses. The result may be increased neuroticism, reduced openness, and a constriction of interests and social engagement. These changes are adaptive in dangerous environments but can persist long after the threat has passed, becoming traits rather than temporary states. Trauma survivors may feel like strangers to their former selves, mourning the spontaneity or optimism they once possessed. With appropriate therapeutic support, the nervous system can gradually downregulate, allowing a broader range of personality expression to re-emerge. The journey of trauma recovery is often slow, but leads to profound personal growth. Healing from trauma often involves reclaiming parts of the self that survival demanded be set aside. Long-term therapy can measurably change personality traits. Psychotherapy is not just about managing symptoms. It can actually shift the underlying personality traits that give rise to distress. Meta-analyses of therapy outcomes show that successful treatment often produces decreases in neuroticism and increases in extroversion that persist years after therapy ends. The therapeutic relationship itself often serves as a model for healthier patterns of connection. These changes are not superficial. They reflect lasting alterations in how individuals perceive the world and respond to stress. Cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic approaches, and even brief interventions have all demonstrated such effects. The relationship with a trustworthy therapist provides a corrective experience that rewires old patterns. Knowing that personality can change through therapy offers hope to those who feel trapped by their tendencies. The self is not a prison. It is a garden that responds to careful cultivation. Moving to a new culture can reshape openness and agreeableness. Immigrating to a new country or immersing yourself in a foreign culture can accelerate personality change. Navigating unfamiliar customs and language demands openness to new experiences and flexibility in thinking. The challenge of building social networks in a new place often enhances agreeableness and social skill. Exposure to different worldviews can loosen rigidly held beliefs and expand tolerance. These shifts are documented in longitudinal studies of international students and immigrants, who often show measurable increases in openness and decreases in ethnocentrism. Cultural immersion stretches personality in ways that staying home typically does not. The discomfort of being out of place is also the crucible in which new dimensions of self are forged. Navigating unfamiliar systems builds confidence that transfers back to life at home. Travel exposure tends to increase flexibility and curiosity. Travel exposes you to novel sights, sounds, and ways of life, stimulating the brain's reward and exploration circuits. Research suggests that people who travel frequently tend to score higher on measures of openness and cognitive flexibility. Encountering unfamiliar environments forces the brain to adapt, weakening automatic assumptions and encouraging creative problem solving. Even short trips can leave lasting impressions, especially when they involve meaningful engagement with local cultures rather than passive sightseeing. Travel is a form of experiential learning that cannot be replicated through books or screens alone. The flexibility and curiosity nurtured by travel spill over into other areas of life, making travelers more adaptable in work, relationships, and personal growth. The personality benefits of travel are another reason to seek out new horizons whenever possible. Even modest journeys can plant seeds of change that bloom over time. Aging often brings more emotional stability and empathy. Contrary to stereotypes of grumpy old age, research shows that most people become more emotionally stable as they grow older. The turbulence of adolescence and young adulthood gradually settles into a calmer baseline, with fewer mood swings and less intense negative emotions. Empathy often increases as well, as years of experience with diverse people and situations deepen perspective-taking ability. The brain changes that accompany aging, including a shift toward prioritizing positive experiences, contribute to this mellowing. Older adults also tend to choose social situations more wisely, avoiding unnecessary conflict and investing in meaningful relationships. The gains in emotional stability and empathy that come with age are among the rewards of a life fully lived. These qualities often make older adults valuable sources of wisdom and perspective. Most people grow more conscientious as they get older. Conscientiousness tends to increase from adolescence through middle age, peaking somewhere in the 50s or 60s. As people accumulate responsibilities, from careers to families to community roles, they develop the planning, organization, and self-discipline needed to meet these demands. The prefrontal cortex continues refining its control functions into adulthood, providing a neurological foundation for this growth. Social expectations also play a role. Adults who fail to meet obligations face consequences that reinforce conscientious behavior. The result is that most people become more reliable, orderly, and achievement-oriented as they mature. This developmental pattern offers hope to those who struggle with impulsivity in youth. Time and experience tend to cultivate the conscientiousness that life demands. The scattered young adult often matures into a reliable pillar of their community. Neuroticism usually declines in later life. As people age, they typically experience a gradual decline in neuroticism, the tendency toward negative emotions and emotional volatility. Older adults report fewer bouts of anxiety, anger, and sadness than they experienced in youth. This trend is partly biological, reflecting changes in brain chemistry and stress response systems, and partly psychological, stemming from accumulated wisdom about what truly matters. Life experience teaches which fears are worth heeding and which can be safely dismissed. The mellowing of neuroticism contributes to the often reported increase in life satisfaction among older adults. This does not mean that aging is free of challenges, but those challenges are met with a calmer, more resilient emotional baseline. The storms of youth give way to steadier seas. This emotional mellowing allows older adults to savor positive experiences more fully. Certain personality traits predict happiness more than income does. Money contributes to happiness up to a point, but beyond meeting basic needs, additional wealth adds little to life satisfaction. Personality, on the other hand, is a powerful and consistent predictor of well-being. Research shows that people low in neuroticism and high in extroversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness tend to report higher levels of happiness regardless of income level. Neurotic individuals often remain dissatisfied no matter how much they earn, while cheerful extroverts find joy even in modest circumstances. This suggests that working on your personality may yield greater dividends than chasing higher salaries. Developing emotional stability, social connection, and purposeful engagement matters more for lasting happiness than accumulating material goods. Knowing this can shift priorities toward habits of mind that cultivate genuine well-being. Self-improvement efforts focused on personality traits may yield better returns than material pursuits. Regular gratitude practice can increase agreeableness over time. Gratitude is not just a momentary feeling. It is an attitude that can be cultivated through deliberate practice. Keeping a gratitude journal, writing thank you notes, or simply taking time each day to notice what is going well can, over weeks and months, nudge personality in a more agreeable direction. Gratitude focuses attention on what others have given, strengthening feelings of warmth and social connection. It also counteracts the natural negativity bias that leads to rumination and complaint. Studies show that regular gratitude interventions increase subjective well-being and reduce symptoms of depression. The mechanism likely involves reshaping neural patterns so that the brain more readily notices positive aspects of experience. Gratitude practice is simple, free, and accessible to anyone willing to redirect their attention. Even a few minutes each day can accumulate into meaningful personality shifts over months. High curiosity predicts lifelong learning and adaptability. Curiosity is a core component of openness to experience and a powerful predictor of intellectual engagement across the lifespan. Curious individuals seek out new information, ask questions, and remain interested in learning long after formal education ends. This trait supports adaptability in rapidly changing environments, as curious people are more willing to update their skills and embrace new technologies. Curiosity also protects against cognitive decline in aging by keeping the brain active and challenged. Importantly, curiosity can be cultivated. Exposing yourself to new domains, reading widely, and asking questions rather than accepting easy answers can strengthen this tendency. The curious mind remains young, regardless of the body's age, finding fascination where others see only routine. Curiosity transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Lifelong learners often credit curiosity as the secret to continued mental vitality. A strong sense of purpose can buffer neurotic tendencies. Neuroticism predisposes people to anxiety, depression, and emotional instability, but a sense of purpose can provide a counterweight. When life feels meaningful and direction is clear, the mind has less room for aimless worry. Purpose organizes attention toward goals and away from the swirl of negative what-ifs. Research shows that individuals with a strong sense of purpose experience fewer symptoms of mental illness, even if their baseline neuroticism is high. Purpose does not eliminate the trait, but channels it productively, transforming worry into vigilance for important goals. Finding meaningful work, caring for others, or contributing to a cause larger than yourself can all serve this function. Purpose is less about grand destiny and more about everyday engagement with what matters to you. Small, meaningful actions can accumulate into a life of profound satisfaction. Even modest contributions to causes larger than oneself provide a sense of direction. Compassion training increases altruism in measurable ways. Compassion can be deliberately cultivated through practices like loving-kindness meditation, which involves directing feelings of warmth and goodwill towards self and others. Studies show that even a few weeks of such training increases altruistic behavior, as measured by donations to charity, willingness to help strangers, and reported concern for others' well-being. Brain imaging reveals that compassion training strengthens activity in circuits associated with empathy and reward, making helping others feel intrinsically satisfying. These changes persist beyond the training period, suggesting genuine shifts in personality rather than temporary states. Compassion training is increasingly used in clinical, educational, and corporate settings to promote pro-social behavior. The heart, like the mind, can be exercised to grow stronger and kinder. Regular practice creates neural pathways that make compassion more automatic over time. People who experience awe regularly report higher life satisfaction. Awe is the emotion that arises when you encounter something vast and beyond immediate comprehension, whether a mountain, a piece of music, or a profound idea. Research links regular experiences of awe to greater life satisfaction, improved immune function, and a sense of having more time. Awe shifts attention away from the self and its petty concerns, connecting you to something larger and more enduring. This perspective adjustment can reduce stress and enhance meaning. Those who seek out awe through nature walks, art galleries, or contemplation of the cosmos tend to live richer lives than those whose routines exclude wonder. Making time for awe can be a deliberate practice that shifts personality toward openness and well-being. Awe experiences remind us of our place in a larger web of existence. Pursuing experiences that inspire awe is one of the most accessible paths to increased life satisfaction. Personality affects how you interpret randomness and coincidence. When something unlikely happens, some people shrug it off as chance, while others search for deeper meaning. Personality shapes this interpretive style. People high in openness and certain forms of magical thinking are more likely to find significance in coincidences, seeing patterns that connect unrelated events. Those high in neuroticism may attribute random misfortune to personal failings or cosmic injustice. Skeptical, analytically minded individuals tend to dismiss coincidences as statistical flukes, requiring no explanation beyond probability. These interpretations are not right or wrong in absolute terms, but reflect the lens through which each personality views the world. Understanding your own tendency helps you evaluate curious events more objectively, or at least more aware of the biases you bring to the interpretation. Self-awareness about pattern-seeking tendencies supports clearer thinking. Superstitious beliefs often arise from high pattern sensitivity. Humans are pattern-detecting machines, a gift that helped our ancestors find food, avoid predators, and predict weather. But this same ability can generate false positives, perceiving patterns where none exist. People high in pattern sensitivity are more prone to superstitious beliefs, seeing causal connections between unrelated events. A lucky shirt worn during a win becomes mandatory for all future games. A black cat crossing the road becomes an omen. These beliefs are not necessarily signs of low intelligence. They reflect a hyperactive pattern detection system shaped by both genetics and experience. Understanding the neural basis of superstition can reduce self-judgment for holding irrational beliefs and help redirect pattern sensitivity toward more productive ends. Critical thinking skills can coexist with pattern-detecting instincts. Belief in fate correlates with lower perceived personal control. Some people believe that life's major outcomes are predetermined by fate, destiny, or external forces, while others see themselves as the primary authors of their futures. This locus of control is a stable personality dimension that influences motivation, resilience, and health. Those who attribute outcomes to fate may feel less personal responsibility and exert less effort to change circumstances. While fatalistic beliefs can reduce anxiety about outcomes beyond control, they can also breed passivity and helplessness. An internal locus of control, the sense that you can influence events through effort and choice, is generally associated with better mental health and achievement. Balancing realistic acceptance of limits with a sense of personal agency is a lifelong task shaped by personality and experience. The wisdom lies in knowing what can be changed and what must be accepted. Personality influences how you experience art and music. The way you engage with art and music is filtered through your personality. Open individuals experience aesthetic works more intensely, often being moved to tears by a painting or finding profound meaning in a song. Extroverts may prefer live performances with social energy, while introverts savor solitary listening or museum visits. Conscientious people may appreciate technical mastery and complexity, while agreeable personalities gravitate toward works that evoke warmth and connection. Even the physical response to art, such as chills from music or goosebumps in a gallery, varies with personality. Understanding your aesthetic style helps explain why certain works resonate deeply while others leave you cold. Exploring art outside your comfort zone can expand both taste and personality. Art does not exist in a vacuum. It meets each viewer or listener through the unique doorway of personality. People high in openness feel physical chills during music more often. Musical chills, those shivers that run down your spine during a powerful song, are not experienced equally by everyone. Research shows that people high in openness to experience report chills more frequently and intensely. Their brains appear to have stronger connections between auditory processing areas and emotional regions, allowing music to produce visceral, physical responses. This heightened sensitivity extends to other aesthetic experiences as well, though music is particularly potent. The chills are associated with dopamine release, the same reward signal triggered by food and other pleasures. For open individuals, music is not just entertainment, it is a direct line to the reward centers of the brain. The intensity of the experience reflects the depth of their emotional engagement. Those who rarely feel chills may still enjoy music but experience it through a less physically intense filter. Extroverts prefer rhythmic music, while introverts prefer complex melodies. Musical preferences align with personality in predictable ways. Extroverts, with their love of stimulation and social energy, tend to prefer upbeat, rhythmic music that encourages movement and interaction. Dance, pop, and electronic genres often resonate with their energetic style. Introverts, who find reward in depth and reflection, frequently gravitate toward complex melodies, intricate harmonies, and layered compositions like classical music, jazz, or acoustic singer-songwriter styles. These preferences reflect broader differences in how the two types seek stimulation. Extroverts want more, faster, and louder, while introverts want subtler, richer, and deeper. Of course, many people enjoy a range of music depending on mood and context, but the average preferences hold across cultures. Musical taste is one of the most reliable markers of personality type. Your playlist is another window into your personality. Personality shapes how you interpret abstract art. Abstract art, with its lack of clear subject or narrative, invites projection and interpretation. How you engage with such work depends heavily on personality. Open individuals often find meaning and beauty in ambiguity, enjoying the freedom to construct their own interpretations. Less open viewers may feel frustrated or dismissive, preferring representational art with clear content. Neurotic individuals might project anxiety onto abstract forms, seeing chaos or threat where others see calm. Extroverts may seek social cues, wanting to discuss meaning with companions, while introverts are content with private contemplation. Abstract art functions like a Rorschach test, revealing as much about the viewer as about the work itself. The meanings we project onto ambiguous images arise from our own psychological depths. Understanding this dynamic deepens appreciation for both art and self. Humor preference reveals emotional resilience. The type of humor you enjoy and the frequency with which you laugh can signal your ability to cope with adversity. People who use humor as a coping mechanism, finding levity even in dark situations, tend to show greater resilience under stress. They are able to step back from problems and see absurdity rather than only threat. Conversely, those who rarely laugh or prefer only safe, innocuous humor may lack this emotional shock absorber. Certain forms of humor, like self-deprecating wit, indicate the ability to acknowledge flaws without being crushed by them. The capacity to laugh in the face of difficulty is a genuine protective factor, buffering against depression and anxiety. Humor provides distance from problems without denying their reality. Humor preference is more than taste. It is a mirror of emotional strength. Agreeable people prefer harmony in both art and relationships. Agreeableness manifests as a preference for smooth, harmonious interactions, and this extends to aesthetic taste. Highly agreeable individuals tend to favor music, art, and literature that evokes warmth, resolution, and connection, rather than conflict or dissonance. Jarring compositions or morally ambiguous narratives may feel uncomfortable, even physically unpleasant. This preference reflects a deeper orientation towards social cohesion and away from disruption. Agreeable personalities seek experiences that reinforce their worldview, one in which kindness prevails and relationships endure. While this can limit exposure to challenging art, it also creates a consistent inner landscape of comfort and reassurance. Understanding this preference helps agreeable individuals stretch beyond their comfort zone when desired, while honoring the genuine need for harmony. Growth sometimes requires experiencing dissonance that challenges comfortable assumptions. Conscientious people prefer structure even in aesthetic experiences. The conscientious mind craves order and predictability, and this extends into the realm of aesthetic preference. Conscientious individuals often appreciate art, music, and literature with clear structure, well-defined forms, and mastery of technique. They may prefer classical symphonies over freeform jazz, meticulously crafted novels over stream-of-consciousness experimentation. The pleasure they take in seeing careful execution reflects their own values of discipline and effort. Conversely, chaotic or deliberately rule-breaking art may irritate rather than inspire them. This preference is not closed-mindedness, but a genuine alignment between personality and taste. Conscientious people often find beauty in well-executed craftsmanship. Understanding how conscientiousness shapes aesthetic experience can help individuals appreciate their reactions and, if desired, deliberately explore beyond their habitual range. Creative personalities experience flow states more frequently. Flow is the mental state of complete absorption in an activity, where time seems to disappear and effort becomes effortless. Creative individuals, particularly those high in openness, report entering flow states more often than the general population. Their ability to sustain attention on intrinsically interesting tasks, combined with their tolerance for ambiguity and challenge, creates ideal conditions for flow. Artists, writers, musicians, and scientists frequently describe extended periods where they lose themselves in their work. Flow is deeply rewarding and is associated with peak performance and well-being. Cultivating the conditions for flow, including clear goals, immediate feedback, and the right balance of skill and challenge, can help anyone access this state more often. Yet creative personalities seem naturally primed to slip into flow's absorbing embrace. The creative process itself rewards those who can sustain attention across long stretches of focused work. Flow feels timeless because self-awareness temporarily quiets. During flow, the usual sense of watching yourself from outside diminishes. Brain activity in regions associated with self-referential thought decreases, allowing attention to merge fully with the task at hand. Without the constant inner commentary judging performance or worrying about outcomes, time perception distorts and hours can pass like minutes. This quieting of self-awareness is one of the most liberating aspects of flow, a break from the evaluative voice that normally accompanies activity. Personality traits like low self-consciousness and high intrinsic motivation predispose individuals to experience this release more readily. The timeless quality of flow is not an illusion, but a genuine shift in how the brain allocates cognitive resources. It is a reminder that the sense of self is malleable, not fixed. The boundaries of identity expand and contract depending on what we are doing and how absorbed we become. The drive to seek novelty, is wired deep into the brain. Novelty seeking is one of the most fundamental dimensions of temperament, observable in infants and consistent across the lifespan. The brain's dopamine system rewards exploration of new environments, objects, and experiences, driving curiosity and risk-taking. People high in novelty seeking are easily bored by routine and constantly crave new stimulation. This trait correlates with openness and extroversion, and is linked to specific genetic variants affecting dopamine receptors. Novelty seeking was likely adaptive in ancestral environments, encouraging exploration of new territories and resources. In modern life, it can lead to adventure and creativity, but also to impulsivity and difficulty committing. Understanding your own novelty-seeking tendency helps you channel it productively, seeking growth without destabilizing what is already working. The key is directing the drive toward constructive exploration rather than mere restlessness. Finding the right balance allows novelty seekers to satisfy their curiosity without sacrificing stability. Adventure seeking may have evolved to help spread human populations. Evolutionary psychologists speculate that the personality trait of adventure seeking served an important function in human prehistory. Individuals willing to leave familiar territory and explore unknown lands were the ones who discovered new resources and spread human populations across the globe. This restless curiosity, present in a subset of every population, diversified risk and increased the survival odds of the species as a whole. Even today, some portion of humanity remains intensely drawn to exploration, whether geographic, intellectual, or experiential. These are the individuals who found new colonies, pioneer new industries, and push the boundaries of human knowledge. Adventure seeking is not recklessness, but an inherited strategy for navigating an uncertain world. Those who feel its pull carry forward an ancient human legacy. The same restless curiosity that drove ancestors across continents lives on in modern adventurers. This evolutionary heritage connects us to the pioneers who first mapped the world. Personality influences dream content and how much you remember. Dreams are the nightly theater of the unconscious, and personality shapes both what plays on stage and how much you recall the next morning. People high in openness tend to have more vivid, fantastical dreams and remember them more often, perhaps because their brains are primed to notice and encode unusual experiences. Neurotic individuals frequently report dreams involving anxiety, threat, and failure, reflecting their waking emotional patterns. Extroverts dream more about social interactions, while introverts may dream of solitary pursuits or abstract imagery. The frequency of dream recall itself is influenced by how much attention one pays to inner experience upon waking. Keeping a dream journal can increase recall, revealing patterns that mirror personality. Your dreams are a nightly autobiography, shaped by the same traits that color your waking life. The themes and emotions that recur in dreams often mirror waking concerns. Night after night, the unconscious works through the material of conscious life. Extroverts dream about social events more often. The social orientation of extroverts extends into their dreamscapes. Studies of dream diaries reveal that extroverts are more likely to dream about parties, conversations, crowds, and group activities. Their dreams feature more characters and more interaction between those characters than the dreams of introverts. This reflects the centrality of social life to the extroverted self. Even in sleep, the brain rehearses and processes interpersonal dynamics. For extroverts, dreaming may serve a function of consolidating social information and preparing for future encounters. Introverts, by contrast, may dream more about solitary environments or one-on-one interactions, reflecting their preference for deeper rather than broader connection. The social flavor of your dreams is another window into the personality that shapes your waking hours. Dream analysis can reveal relationship patterns that may not be obvious in daily life. The social dynamics of dreams often reflect unresolved tensions or unacknowledged bonds. Neurotic dreamers tend to have more vivid nightmares. Neuroticism colors not just waking life but sleep as well. People high in this trait report more frequent and more intense nightmares, often featuring themes of failure, threat, and helplessness. The heightened amygdala reactivity that characterizes neuroticism continues during sleep, generating emotionally charged dream scenarios. Nightmares may represent the brain's attempt to process unresolved fears, but they can also perpetuate distress by reinforcing negative emotional patterns. Chronic nightmares are associated with poorer sleep quality and daytime anxiety, creating a feedback loop. Therapeutic techniques like imagery rehearsal, where patients consciously revise their nightmare scripts before sleep, can reduce nightmare frequency. Understanding the link between personality and nightmares offers a path toward better sleep and calmer nights. Sleep quality directly affects next-day mood and cognitive function. Addressing nightmare frequency can have ripple effects on overall mental health. Creative people experience lucid dreams more frequently. Lucid dreaming is the phenomenon of becoming aware that you are dreaming while still inside the dream. This unusual state of consciousness allows the dreamer to observe and sometimes control the dream narrative. Research suggests that creative individuals, particularly those high in openness, are more likely to experience lucid dreams spontaneously. The capacity may relate to their heightened metacognitive awareness, the ability to step back and observe their own mental processes. Lucid dreaming has been likened to a creative laboratory where impossible scenarios can be explored safely. Some artists and scientists report using lucid dreams for problem-solving or inspiration. While not everyone can cultivate lucid dreaming easily, the trait's connection to openness hints at a broader link between creativity and unusual states of consciousness. Lucid dreamers often report using dreams for problem-solving and creative inspiration. Some have even produced artistic works conceived entirely within the dream state. People high in openness recall dreams in greater detail. Open individuals not only remember their dreams more often, but also recall them with richer sensory and emotional detail. They describe colors, textures, dialogues, and feelings with vividness that less open dreamers rarely match. This may reflect their generally heightened engagement with inner experience and their tendency to notice and encode subtle sensory information. Open people also show greater interest in their dreams, often keeping journals or discussing dreams with others, which reinforces memory. The richness of dream recall contributes to their sense of having a layered, imaginative inner life. For those who wish to enhance dream recall, practices like keeping a journal and setting an intention before sleep can encourage the brain to treat dreams as experiences worth remembering. The act of recording trains attention toward the liminal moments between sleep and waking. Your sleeping posture can reflect emotional states. The position in which you sleep is influenced by a combination of physical comfort and unconscious emotional patterns. While claims linking specific poses to personality types are often exaggerated, research does suggest some associations. People feeling anxious or vulnerable may curl into a fetal position, while those in expansive moods may sprawl openly. Sleep posture can shift night to night depending on stress levels and emotional processing. Observing changes in your own sleeping position over time can reveal patterns of tension or relaxation you might not consciously notice. Sleep science is still exploring these connections, so conclusions should be held lightly. Research on sleep posture remains in early stages, but shows promising patterns. Yet the body never lies entirely, and posture during sleep is one more expression of the mind-body relationship that shapes personality. Dream patterns may subtly shift after personality change. Because dreams are influenced by personality, changes in personality can ripple into the dreamscape. Individuals who undergo therapy and experience reductions in neuroticism often report fewer nightmares and more neutral or positive dream content. Those who cultivate openness through new experiences may notice more creative, adventurous dreams. Longitudinal studies tracking personality and dream content are rare, but the available evidence supports this connection. Dreams may serve as a sensitive indicator of psychological change, revealing shifts before waking self-reports catch up. Tracking your dreams over months or years can provide a unique window into your evolving personality. The nightly narratives are not random but shaped by the same processes that govern who you are becoming. Dreams may serve as an early warning system for psychological shifts before they become apparent in waking life. Journaling dreams often increases self-awareness over time. Keeping a dream journal is a practice as old as writing itself, and it serves both memory and self-discovery. Writing down dreams upon waking trains the brain to pay attention to unconscious material, gradually increasing recall frequency and detail. Over time, patterns emerge, recurring themes, symbols, and emotional tones that reflect deeper concerns and personality dynamics. Reviewing a dream journal can reveal growth, highlight unresolved issues, and foster a sense of dialogue with the unconscious mind. This practice aligns with personality traits like openness and introspection, but can benefit anyone seeking greater self-awareness. The simple act of recording dreams bridges the gap between sleeping and waking selves, integrating aspects of identity that might otherwise remain hidden. Personality is a lifelong conversation between biology and experience. Who you are is neither fixed at birth nor entirely malleable by will. Personality emerges from an ongoing conversation between genetic predispositions and lived experience. Your genes set the boundaries and tendencies. Your environment sculpts the specifics. Early childhood establishes foundational patterns that adolescence refines and adulthood stabilizes. Yet change remains possible at every stage. Major life events, therapy, deliberate practice, and even shifting cultural contexts continue to shape who you become. This dynamic interplay means that self-improvement is realistic but not unlimited. You can cultivate new habits, dampen old reactions, and grow into new roles, but you do so from the starting point your biology provides. Understanding this balance encourages patience, self-compassion, and realistic expectations for personal growth. Change is possible within the boundaries that biology sets. The self that you are becoming is an echo of every season you have lived. Every phase of life leaves its mark on personality. The cautious tendencies learned in a difficult childhood may echo through decades, just as the confidence built during a supportive adolescence resonates into adulthood. Each season, whether of joy or struggle, contributes to the composite you call yourself. These echoes are not static recordings, but living influences that shape how you perceive and respond to the present. The self is layered, a palimpsest written over by each passing year. Understanding this continuity can inspire gratitude for the experiences that strengthened you, and compassion for the wounds that still ache. The person you are today is the sum of every season, a unique mosaic assembled from the ordinary and extraordinary moments of a single, unrepeatable life. Each experience has left its mark, shaping the particular way you see the world. And now the quiet wonders of personality begin to gently fade into the stillness of sleep. You have wandered through over 100 peaceful truths about the inner landscape that makes you who you are. From the genetic codes that whisper hints of temperament, to the experiences that shape and reshape your neural pathways. From the brain structures that govern introversion and extroversion, to the subtle ways emotion colors every perception. You have explored how personality influences the way time feels, how memories are stored, how stress is handled, and how relationships are formed. You have learned that the traits you carry are neither fixed nor random, but a living dialogue between inheritance and experience that continues throughout your entire life. You are connected to this story more deeply than you may realize. Right now, as you listen, your personality is doing what it has always done. Filtering the world through your unique perspective. Shaping how you respond to these words. Preparing your mind for rest in its own particular way. It does not need your conscious attention. It simply works, faithfully and quietly, as it has since your earliest days. If your eyes feel heavy now, let them close. Let the rhythm of your breath become steady, like the gentle pulse of thought beneath awareness, like the quiet hum of a mind that has been growing and changing since the very first moment of your life. Tonight, as you rest, your personality continues its quiet evolution. Memory will consolidate. Neural pathways will strengthen. Dreams will weave together the threads of who you are becoming. And tomorrow, you will wake as the same person, yet ever so slightly different, shaped by one more night of living. You are a small, warm presence within this vast inner world, peacefully resting among the wonders. Sleep well, sweet dreams. And may you carry with you the quiet knowledge that the mind is a galaxy of its own, unfolding and rearranging with every breath you take, always becoming, always growing, always you. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mysteries of personality. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Drowsy Discovery for more soothing explorations of the human mind and what makes each of us uniquely ourselves. There are more wonders waiting, more secrets hidden in the quiet corners of temperament and thought, more gentle truths to drift through on quiet evenings. Rest well. And may the gentle wisdom of your own personality keep you company through the night. This has been Drowsy Discovery. Good night.